Hello there, Rhythmn once again. This is my Hi-Fi Rush Rhythm Master video walkthrough. This is track 5, it's called Breaking Out, and we are moving into a part of the game that I'm probably going to critique more than any other part of the game. And I'm not doing this from a position of wanting to shit on Hi-Fi Rush, guys, because I love this game and I think it's amazing and I think you should play it. I'm just a little disappointed with this particular stage because I think it does a lot of things really well and then it overstays its welcome really, really quickly. And when I think about the middle part of this game, it does not resonate anywhere near as high as the start or indeed the end. And this channel is all about critiquing things and hopefully guiding people through difficult situations. And I'm going to do both of those things in this video. But know that it comes from a position of love. Some people seem to think that when you critique something it's because you're a hateful, spiteful person, and it's just not the case. We have a few parry sequences coming up here. Again, this is the game reinforcing parrying, and there's a really good reason for this. This is the level where we will be recruiting Corsica, and the Corsica boss fight coming up is a parry war. They want you to practice your parrying here, and not only do they put robots to keep you practicing, keep you warm, get you steadily, understanding what the system is and acclimatized to what they expect, but they also introduce an enemy who is specifically parry focused, which is the samurai character. And he is really, really unique and really dangerous. And I don't know him very well, so he's going to beat my ass. But this is the area where we are going to be activating a bunch of different elevators so that we can go towards the security area where the boss is. And the first time you do this area is pretty okay, it still looks cool, it still has this wonderful aesthetic, it still has everything that makes Hi-Fi Rush what it is. But when you come back, I'd be very interesting to see what you feel about this part of the game, guys, because I just don't think being in this cyber building is anywhere near as interesting as some of the other locations. But there's an electric reverb core piece. If you collect a bunch of those, you will get more reverb. I still haven't talked about that, so I'm going to talk about reverb now. So if you don't know, guys, which if you're following the tutorials when you play the game, it does explain it, but I know I forgot. Reverb is built up during fights, but at the end of fights it's removed, it's reset. I don't know why they do that. Personally, I think that that's one of the weakest areas of the combat, and I understand in one way why they've chosen to try it, this particular restriction, is because I think they don't want people inheriting reverb and then going into the next fight and immediately deleting what's in that fight. And I think the reason they've done this is because if you look at the game on a wavelength, there's like 4 fights a level sometimes. Like even if a level is 40 minutes long, you might spend 5 sections of that level fighting and everything else is doing story, navigation and platforming. So you don't really fight that much. So it makes me believe that if you could inherit reverb between encounters, you could just go to the next encounter and delete it. And they wanted to kind of put you in there at the start and make you earn it by playing well. And when you do play good, you get multipliers on reverb and you can get all your stuff back and have a good time. It's pretty cool. So it's not the end of the world, especially when you've got 2 meters to fill and you know what you're doing, especially if you're using chips and things to augment your reverb. But it just seems kind of interesting, doesn't it, that you get a bonus on the scoreboard for having a max reverb bar when you win. And then after the fight, they take it off you. Which, I don't know. It just seems really alien to me, that. What do you think about it, guys? Do you think it's kind of strange? And if you don't know what reverb does, because, the game has got a lot of systems going on. Here's the samurai, by the way. Reverb is what you spend to use your supers. It's also what you spend to use your assists in certain techniques. And you might notice that there's only one bar of reverb special in the game, which is an uppercut. Everything else, it seems like they want you to use the assists for. And I think that's the reason why there aren't more. Because one of my critiques of the supers is that there's too many supers that cost a lot, and there's not enough that don't cost too much. So there's not a go-to quick one that you can have fun with and you can constantly keep doing. Obviously, if you're really good at the game, you can constantly keep doing anything. But not everyone's going to be able to do that. This is kind of funny, because I'm trying to shut this guy down, but if you know anything about this monster, he's designed to not let you do this. He's having a really good go at me right here. I spent all my meter on him, and it didn't do a single thing because he just kind of cancelled it out and auto-guarded it with his desperation move. But don't worry guys, we'll see more of this dude and I'm going to talk about him at length when we do. Just enjoy me scrubbily mashing against his back and trying to kill him and running away from his moves. But Reverb seems to be heavily governed towards using your assists for one bar and then banking on something bigger with the other bars. And I honestly can't think why they drain it from you after the fight, because when you move around the world ambiently, you pick it up. Like, you get it all, you know? There's lots of opportunities to grab it. It just seems really strange. You can go into a fight with full reverb. You can even pick up batteries that fill your reverb when you press them. So there's opportunities for you, if you know what you're doing potentially, to go into a fight with a lot of it anyway. So it doesn't stack up to me. And there's not many aspects of this game that don't stack up, but this is one of them. But here is a puzzle involving Peppermint shooting at this orb when it opens up. Some of these sequences control kind of weirdly, but you get used to them quite quickly. It's a little bit like when Macaron opens doorways, and you try and open the doorway and you miss and he face palms and you feel bad. Hi-Fi Rush has this wonderful sense of like making you feel like shit when you don't do things on time, and then there's certain parts of the game that aren't even on time, so they feel worse just by proxy of everything else feeling so good when you sync up to it. And you notice that in the platforming. A lot of the platforming feels like it should do something rhythmically and it doesn't, and because it doesn't, you notice it. And it makes me wonder if that was something that was originally planned, or if they pulled it out because people were falling and dying and getting frustrated or something like that. But here is the first core. And you remember in the previous level where we got to the eyeball and we did this? Well, now we're getting to this ball and we're doing this. This is where the fatigue in the middle third kind of affects me. This is why I don't like this level very much. I also just don't like the aesthetic of it either. I think it just looks too samey and too repetitive. This is the procedurally generated level, and it makes me a little sad considering how amazing the rest of this game looks. But here's the thing, guys, right? As much as I don't like this one, you have to admit that the fights that you do on this level are really, really good, and objectively, it's still a really good level. It's got platforming, it's got navigation, it's got cool narrative, it's got cool fights. It comes together really well. And one thing you need in environments and one thing you need in an adventure is peaks and valleys. You can't just always have the same highs, the same constant crazy roller coaster that never comes down, you know? So you could call this just a necessary lull, like a middle act. But it really stands out to me, and every time I get to it, I kind of go, I don't really like this level. And again, if we could get an enemy encounter selector, or like just a chorus picker, so we can go in there and do the fights, I would love it, because it means I would never have to feel that feeling in a game that I adore. But it's the same with that level where it has that fight that I don't like. That electric floor fight, that level is one of my favourite levels in the game because I love the start of it with all the colours and the festival that's happening, and then I love going to that museum even though I think narratively they fuck it up. But I can't stand that electric floor fight, so as soon as I realise I'm on that level I just kind of, ugh, this again. But here we go, guys. We've got a couple of sword enemies and we've got a guy with a shield. I'm going to isolate the enemies, launch them, take them down, and then focus on bringing out Macaron as much as I can to break this guy's shield. I recommend getting the air parry and also getting the directional parry because it'll just save your life in times when you do it by accident. The amount of times I've been almost about to land, I've gone for a parry and I was still technically airborne and it hit me anyway. Happens a ton. Ooh, that one clonked me. That should not have hit me. Not playing very well in this video, guys, but we'll still get there, so that should give you some hope. The other day when I was recording, I was playing terribly, and I had to just turn the game off, but I turned it on today to finish recording, and I was playing fine. So it just goes to show sometimes you're a bit tired, or maybe you're just a bit off. Nothing wrong with it, it happens to the best of us. But keep on moving around. It's interesting as well, because you don't realise how long the levels are until you see them on like a timeline in an editing software. And then you get introduced to the timing of the jumps. I wish they did more with this mechanic. I think this is a really cool feature to kind of break up what you're doing. I think that that's what you should have done when you landed on the platforms. So when you jump towards a platform, when you land on it, if you press jump as you land on landing, it should have shot you up like that, and I think it could have made the platforming really dynamic. But instead the platforming just feels like weird. I don't know if you felt that, I know I did. But a couple of airborne enemies and another shield guy. We're going to be bringing Macaron out as much as we can to break the shield again, and then going in with some juggles. Oh, we got the double juggle! Oh, I love it when you do that. And then I get whacked, which is really sloppy. I wonder what that was. Because I don't want to make excuses, guys. You know, I'm like anybody else. I have times when I'm terrible, I have times when I'm not terrible. But I was watching TV shows while I was recording this. Because I can't help myself. My brain is just demanding. It's a slave driver. And I was watching a lot of the DSP podcast. And not the one he does. The one that's done by Steve of the Dead and Meerkat and Alt Insider and Sam. I was listening to a lot of the shenanigans there, reporting on Phil and all the crazy songs that they keep getting sent and things, so I was definitely distracted, but it's not a good excuse to get hit by that. That was so obvious. But it is funny because I can't play music while I play this game, because when I do it, I can't time the game at all. The timing element is so necessary that I have to engage with it. This is a really cool fight. I love this one. Lots of sword guys. I do the backstab, and then we have the main sword guy. So this hit here does 3 attacks, and it does big lines, and they're very easy to parry. And right now, he's gone into his second phase where he's going to do this stance where he does a slash. And he goes slash, 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 like that. And the end of it, it comes out really quick. And the way you parry it, which I didn't know at this time, I learnt it today, because I finally put the time in, it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, like that. And I know that sounds ridiculous, me saying it with my mouth, but that's what you've got to do, guys. You do 1 slowly, 1 slowly, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you do really fast ones at the end. And that's how you get it. And then he goes down on his sword and he gets all tired. But at this time I didn't have it, so I didn't know the best way to do it, but now I do, thankfully. And I'll never let him get away with this again. But in this video, I'm going to stand here and let him do his thing. And then this is the dun, 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 dun. And I fucked it up. What am I doing? Oh my god. I'm having a bad night, guys. That's important to tell you as well. So, this enemy is designed to counter you. He's designed to teach you to parry as well. And if you attack him at certain points, he does an auto counter. And if you're not ready for it, it's really quick. It's super fast, so be very, very careful. The more you fight him, the easier he gets, though. He's an enemy that's going to beat you up because you have to parry him. And, I mean, technically you don't have to parry him, but it feels like you do when you're new to the game. But that move he does, guys, at the end when he goes desperation and he stabs his sword down, it puts a ground shockwave out, so if you jump over it, you don't have to do the minigame. If you cannot do that minigame, skip it. Jump it, beat him up, kill him. That's all you need to do. And then we come into another room where we have to interact with the balls. This is my favourite room, this, because it has an interesting puzzle here, where you shoot that to remove the side bit, and then you knock this up with macaron. I think this is a really cool one. Personally, I think this level should have been tied into the level where you're climbing the tower. That climbing the tower sequence, I think, is really, really good. But I think that comes later on, doesn't it? Here we go, we've got to do this again. And this is the same, you know how I mentioned that I don't like the beat hits design? I just don't think it looks as good as the rest of the game. I think those areas are the exact same. This game is using all these wonderful pop art, cartoon, awesome looking Liechtenstein graphics. And then you've got those circles that look like they were ripped from some like fucking placeholder flash game on Newgrounds. And I don't understand it. Like, do you see the exclamation marks here where it says press right bumper? Why don't they look like that? Why don't they make them colourful and awesome? Like, I don't get it. And these are environments that move to the beat, guys. This is one of the harder ones in the game. There's 2 moments like this where you have to jump on time, and if you do it wrong, you take massive damage. I died here, which is kind of hilarious considering I barely died on any of the fights on this mission, but this area killed me. And on this, you've got to go quick. So you go, I think it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. And I'm watching it because I don't know the rhythm here. This is where you just do 1. So that's it. You do 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. I think it is. It's a pain in the ass. However, once you learn the timing, you'll be okay. But when you don't have it like I don't, you get killed. So be very careful in those moments because it does a lot of damage too on this difficulty. And they're the small things. The more you play the game, you won't even remember those moments because you'll just do them automatically, but until it happens, they're definitely going to trip you up, because they still trip me up, and this is, like I said, this is a third playthrough. After this, I'm going to be going back in and trying to find everything. I'm also going to try and rank run some of the earlier difficulties so I can tick those off and I don't have to play them ever again. Ooh, this is a cool fight. So we've got a bunch of laser guys and a bunch of guys with swords. Start with bringing in Macron, go into the air combo. Re-pick him with the magnet. Opportunity to do some ground stuff here, which is really nice. There's Peppermint coming in. We've got tons and tons of reverb right now, which is nice. There's the special. Not a bad little special, that one. It's not the best, obviously, but it's pretty good. Some of them, though, if you use them right, are so strong. Like, there's a few really situational ones, like the one where you ride the guitar and the one where you send out the claws. That claw one, if you get them on a boundary so that the claw's projectile can land on top of them, it does an insane amount of damage. It's just, it's really hard to space it. And there you go. Terrible score right there, but everything else was pretty good. And we got the A star, which I'm still not certain what the star means. We were thinking it was maybe no damage, but I've seen people get stars who took hits. So is that just like a bug? Or is that something else? Is it like a special bonus? Oh, I messed that one up. Look at that.
I don't think Corsica's like the other bosses.
Here we go. Keep on moving up the tower.
Less insane. Also, she seemed genuinely.
We're getting a lot of narrative here as well, which I think is really good on the first playthrough, but on multiple playthroughs afterwards, I just don't think it works as well. Because when you've done the story, you kind of want to just get to the gameplay, and when it keeps on interrupting you with tutorials and keeps on making you watch things, like every so often there's checkpoints where you get full exposition dumps before you get to play the game. And when you're coming back to repeat it, you don't want to listen to a dialogue before you do it. That fight, that's the hardest fight in the game, has Mimosa talk to you for like 3 fucking lines before you get into the fight, and I got so annoyed at hearing it that I turned the voices off. Like I don't know why devs do that, and I'll never understand why people put checkpoints in areas that just lead to you resenting other components in the game. And I had a person in my community were complaining about no checkpoint on Kale's parry, and I completely understand what he means, because it just feels really unfair when you do the fight really well, and then you get punished on the parry sequence when it's not really the gameplay. And this game's really good at times giving you checkpoints on certain areas, and then it just leaves you hanging on other points. Like, why does Rekka have all those checkpoints when she's the most brain-dead easy fight in the game, and then you've got later bosses that don't, and they just leave you to get brutalized? It's kind of strange, that. I don't understand it. And I got fucked earlier on as well because I was doing Kale, and I no damaged his first 2 phases, which I didn't think I would do, and then I missed one of the parries on the transition and I took damage. And it didn't save before the parry sequence, so I had to do the fight again. And I don't mind Kale, I think he's a good boss, I quite like him actually, but doing him no damage is a pain in the ass. Especially when you don't have your gear. Like, if I had 808, it'd be fucking free, but I don't, you know? So I have to use the tools that I've got right now, and they're just not good enough for getting there concise and putting him down. So you have to really work your ass off. And I don't mind it because I love the game and it's a really fun fight, but then to just lose it all to a shitty parry, and it's my fault, I can't blame anybody but myself, but there are other moments, like against Corsica, where it gives you a checkpoint. It feels a little bit... They help you when you don't need it, and they leave you to die when you do. And that's one of those things where, right now, I'm currently in a treatment for a game I want to make, because I'm getting so frustrated at modern gaming, why not make my own, right? I suppose that's the only thing you can do once you've got sick of complaining. But there's one guarantee, if it ever comes to fruition and it ever becomes something, you will never, ever, ever get salty at my fucking checkpoints making you do some bullshit before the fight. Because it's not how that's going to work. There's not going to be any cutscenes, there's not going to be any fucking load times, there's not going to be any nonsense, there's not going to be any stand there while someone talks to you before anything happens. You're going to hit retry, and the motherfucker that killed you is going to be stood in your face throwing a punch at you. Because I just don't understand how anybody could want anything else. Like, you know when you see people playing Guitar Hero and they're trying to FC a song that's got a minute of silence at the start? Can you imagine trying to FC a song with a minute of silence every time you fail? I just don't get it. And of course, this is 1000% preference, you know? This is my brain, I can't deal with waiting, I am very impatient. And I just can't help myself, you know, it's programmed deeply inside me. Oh, I got fucked then. I got fucked twice! Why? Wow, that was bad. That's not good. I get a bit tilted with this game sometimes because my controller likes to disconnect. So when I was beating very hard, I was having problems with SCP Toolkit, and every so often it just completely lost input, and it was like I was missing the parries and I wasn't, and I got angry. I got really angry. And it never happens on like an easy fight that's one wave, it always happens at the end of a 3-wave fight that's really hard. But here we go, Samurai Man, so wait for him. Parry, see that? As soon as you see the flash, press parry afterwards, you'll stop that move every time. And here, when he's like this, if you attack him, he does an automatic parry. But here's the same thing, 1-2, 1-1-1, 1-1-1-1. It's like that phone number in IT Crowd. You can mash the end of it though. I don't recommend you do because you want to get the timing because it's just fast beat. But the first bit, 1-2, then you do on beat, and then you do fast, 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 fast. But this guy likes to jump around as well. I'm very curious what the best thing to do to this monster is, because he's very evasive, but we've broke him now, so hopefully we can push him up. And he goes into his counter stance, but you can stun him for free. And then boom, do you see how he knocked me out of the air so that he could come into this thing? And this is the end. So this is the same one, guys. Hopefully I don't fuck it up this time. Take a shot if I do. There we go, that was better. As I've previously said though, this is all about practice, guys. If you're watching this and you can't do it, like there was somebody that commented on my Kale video saying, oh, I can't do this boss, it's too hard. Kale's really hard, he's very demanding, especially if you go on the higher difficulties, he just beats the shit out of you. He's even worse on this difficulty as well because he's very aggressive and his lasers are constant. But, like anything else, you can do it, it's just, are you willing to put in the time? You know, are you willing to get beaten up long enough so that you stop getting beaten up? Because that's what it really boils down to. There's almost nothing you can't do in a video game if you're willing to put the time in. But if you're not and your brain can't do it, that's okay. Plenty of other things to do. And now we're moving on to the final fight of the level. I love this fight too. This is going to introduce a new enemy too. I think it's the kimono. We've not seen him yet. This is a great monster, and they use it in a very elegant way. You never see this monster with almost anything else, and you never see this monster in multiples. Which I think they totally could have done that. And I'm looking forward to what they do to support this game, because if they add a difficulty, like I might send the director a DM and be like, dude, I need more. I need all these things. But here we go with a shield enemy. This guy needs to die. Hate this enemy. Get rid of him immediately. Something to be cognizant of as well. When you fall after a combo, the enemies are really good at hitting you the frame you land. So as you land, guys, make sure you're thinking about what you're doing, what they're doing, and any kind of exit or strategy to circumvent what happens. A really good strategy, if you've got reverb, is when you land, immediately go into a special. But just be careful, because if you're using an asset, if one of your friends is out on the screen and you try and go into a special that uses them, it won't activate immediately and it'll leave you hanging and you can get super fucked. It happens to me all the time. I get way too carried away with doing the assists all the time, and then before you know it, I'm just in trouble. Damn, look at all the batteries that fell out of that guy. I love how these robots look. I wish there was more of them. Like, it'd be really cool if there was different versions that had different weapons and slightly different movesets, just a couple more jobbers. Like, you could easily add enemies to this game because they're so well designed. Like, all the enemies have got really, really good profiles and really, really good colours, so all you do is swap their weapon out and give them a different animation along with all the other ones, and you have a new enemy. Not that enemies are a problem in this game as far as how many there is, I think they do a really good job there as well. It's not quite the Kamiya seal of approval, but it's very close. Because there's just enough to keep you guessing and keep you mixing it up, and there's just the right amount so that it's not too intimidating and there's not too many to learn. This guy's getting bullied, look at that, 112 combo. I don't often keep my combo hits that high because I don't attack on beat enough. It's something I personally struggle with and I need to work on. And here we go, a bird. This guy's a beast. I don't know if you've seen this enemy yet, but what I like to do to this monster, see me locking him down by using Macaron's special by holding the trigger, so powerful if you can do it. Damn, this guy's getting wrecked. Oh, and he's doing the drill. This is really frustrating, this, because it's got a weird telegraph. And you can parry it. I've gone into practice mode and practiced parrying it, but it's awkward. So it's sometimes safer to just jump over it. And then here we go, we get the final bit. So this is quite long, this one, the bird one. It's doubles into a triple into a delayed double. There you go, he's dead. But we'll talk about that guy more times when he turns up, because there's lots to say. Pressure's really good. You get pressure on them, you trap them with the gravity, it's free money. There you go, I think that's the end of the level. So thank you all for being here, guys. I hope you're enjoying the walkthrough, and you take care now.